Recently, I came across a little video by Akumu. While the video was a little confusing to follow, it had some good points about it. But it's really what sort of propped this all off that really I took an interest in. A video by a small commentator called Alex the Critic called Begging the Question. And since it evolved, the subject matter that I covered myself as of Heels vs. Babyface going off on his little rant about Starfield, I thought it would be interesting to go in blind. That was a bit of a mistake, so I sat down and went through the points a little better, and I got a little bit better results.
You smell of poo-poo pee-pee.
I see.
He's blowing it all out of proportion? Oh no, someone blowing something out of proportion in a video game so they can rant about it for comedic effect. Golly gee willikers, I hope nobody makes an entire fucking YouTube genre like that. In 2004, you should know all about 2004, seeing as that's where your politics flash froze.
See, that's a hominem attack, or at least close enough as it currently stands in this video. Not just an insult.
Attacking the person. This fallacy occurs when, instead of addressing someone's argument or position, you irrelevantly attack the person or some aspect of the person who is making the argument. The fallacious attack can also be direct to membership in a group or institution. The last part is referring to guilty by association.
Explaining it to, I guess, slideshow commentary people. But simply dismissing someone else's claim, critique, opinion just by attacking their character or credibility or some other source instead of actually addressing what's being said. But calling that is what Razor Fist is doing might be a little off. I mean, he is sort of lumping people in, this loosely categorized group of people. Always hard to judge a logical fallacy, and you never just want to use it as a point in its own. You need to explain the problems with it. Just because something could be considered a logical fallacy does not mean it's incorrect. It matters about the context. So let's go on with the context of this.
Okay, first off, this tweet doesn't actually see Angry Joe saying that this is being blown out of proportion and is more him making fun of the idea of complaining about something being woke in the first place by sarcastically suggesting a review show that rates things based on how woke they are.
Ephraim, the punchline to Angry Joe's joke is that Az is blowing something out of proportion.
Wrong. And a fail by Alex the Critic, because the quote tweet and Angry Joe's joke tweet, well, besides Razor Fist throwing it up on the screen in his little Starfield rant video, and it does have some sort of adjacent association with this whole mess, but still, it's maybe more of a fail by whoever flashed that tweet up on the screen during that sort of section of the video that continued in this sort of cascade failure down the line from Ephraim to Alex here.
Then why did Angry Joe say it while quote tweeting Dan Vasc and not Az?
A few moments later.
Why would he be making fun of that if he didn't think that doing so is akin to blowing something out of proportion? Even if you want to argue that Angry Joe is instead making fun of Az for placing far too much emphasis on whether or not a game is woke as opposed to whether or not it's actually any good, or for being a dishonest grifter who doesn't actually care about any of the issues he champions, he would still essentially be joking that Az is blowing something out of proportion.
Okay, let's just say for the sake of argument, that Joe's tweet was about Az's rant and, that cowardly subtweeting way. Probably not too far off, but who knows how exact that is. To assume Angry Joe with this joke tweet is assuming that Az is blowing something out of proportion. It's assuming a lot of things that really can't be determined. I mean, Alex the Critic could be correct here, but also he could be very wrong. Still, Jesus Christ, how have we gotten to this point that even a joke tweet that is flashed on the screen during a rant has to be, the initial point of criticism or analysis in this particular thing? I swear to God. commentary is doomed if this is the future. Frankly, from my personal perspective, my impression of this particular joke is that Angry Joe is trying to make the point that the politics of the game have sort of taken over priority of the, actual quality of the media being made. To Alex's credit, he sort of puts that subjective point out there, but he still sees that as blowing out of proportion. Just a matter of perspective. I don't know why it's worth quibbling over this definition. Something you should never do with leftists. There's probably other types of people you shouldn't do with it who are too particularly anal in particular, because everyone wants to mind read and psychoanalyze this day, and don't just take a joke for a joke. There has to be a deeper meaning behind it. And maybe there is, but maybe there isn't.
And this also reveals the issue with the AVGN comparison more generally, because even ignoring the fact that, yeah, some of these people might not like the AVGN and the angry video game style of reviewing more generally, which is perfectly possible,
but not relevant in the slightest.
I'll agree. Frankly, I have no clue why it was even brought up in the Razor Fist video, except maybe to, sort of straw man the arguments of the people Razor Fist was sort of talking about before he moved on to, some political point that had nothing to actually do with the actual game in the, the rant that the video's titled after. Still, it is curious, and frankly, I can't really tell why Efron hyper-focused on the angry video game nerd reference for really as long as he did, and, instead of really just pointing out what I just did. Oh, if you're wondering why I sort of alluded to what Razor Fist was doing was considered straw manning in a certain way, it's because he did not use a direct quote from anyone who really argued this point. He figured if this is what everyone was arguing, he would be able to pull someone actually saying this. But you know what? Simplify, reduce it, generalize the people you want to argue with. That's not necessarily straw manning someone. I think there's another term like jelly manning. Not gonna say Razor Fist was doing either one. Still, I could be wrong, but that really is the impression I get from at least this part of his own video.
It seemed both avowed lefties and fence-sitting skepticunts alike all decided to form a douchebag drum circle to shit on this guy. The Act Ma'am, some hack guy, Pris Gay Run. I didn't bother checking his Twitter feed, but I'm sure Review Tech was firing off with all 5 chins. If they haven't been remotely relevant since the Sarkeesian witch hunt of Aught 15, chances are they were going full mask off on a dude for having the gall to record a funny fucking rant.
This sort of made me think, taking some baseline assumptions that might have not been true and, adding a little half-cocked speculation, really based on very little information given the criticisms that are being expressed.
Why? Because disliking how someone is expressing a criticism does not refute the criticism being expressed.
Okay. What criticism? Angry Joe's? It really would have been helpful if Alex highlighted what criticism he's talking about in this particular case. I mean, it can't be Razor Fist in this case. And Efron, he was just talking about a issue with the AVGN comparison here. I mean, maybe I missed something, maybe not.
The comparison falls apart due to the AVGN complaining about problems that most people agree actually exist.
Is that really the standard we want to set for the validity of Razor Fist's comparison?
Okay, good. I'm not going crazy. I mean, crazier than I already am. But again, I don't know why such focus is placed on this comparison here. Maybe it'll make some bit of sense later.
Whether or not the majority of people agree that the problem Az was ranting about in a comedically angry fashion is a problem? Because there was once a time where the majority of Americans thought that black people were better off as slaves. So by this logic, if Az went on an angry rant denouncing slavery, Razor Fist would be wrong to defend him by pointing out that angry political commentators have existed for centuries.
Nope, I was wrong. I was very, very wrong, perhaps. Maybe it comes back up again later, but woo, like seriously, what's up with this comparison here? Really comparing there being a third they, them pronoun in the game, which, granted, Ephraim doesn't actually see as an actual problem, at least according to Alex the Critic. Even that, to the Institute of Slavery is borderline insane. Why? It seems so blown out of proportion. Slavery in America 200 years ago, video games now. I'm just really hoping Alex is using this really insane example to be, comical, hyperbolic, and making his point. And, not like trying to say that the issues that Razor Fist and Heels vs. Babyface express in their videos have even a small fraction of the same value that those who fought to end slavery did. Though I have to remark, it seems Alex, in this attempt to sort of counter Efron's point, does seem to do something that, I would consider appeal to popularity. I really hope Alex the Critic realizes this point could be used to, make the claim that what Az did in his rant was, attempt to clout chase off the sort of anti-woke movement. And it worked, as Alex the Critic pointed out. Still, I don't pretend to know the truth of any particular matter. I just really think it's funny to joke about that being a very high likelihood given how things turned out.
I don't even need to appeal to Az specifically to refute Ephraim's claim. The fact that other huge commentators like Razor Fist, Geeks and Gamers, The Quartering, and Young Ripper 59 made videos defending Az that their fans generally agreed with shows that this was not a one-sided controversy.
Yes, of course. Everyone, on Friday Night Tights, the podcast that he shows up on a lot, rush to defend Az's anti-woke virtue signal, no matter how stupid it might have come across. The real question is, what did people outside this sort of little circle think about sort of Az's take on Starfield and his rant? Oh, okay, sorry. This isn't the time to talk about that. I agree with Alex here that Ephraim can't actually prove, at least with the framing Alex the Critic is giving it here. But a good faith reading of what Ephraim is saying here would be that AVGN talked about more, technical problems in the game, such as poor design, bugs, glitches, but you know what? We're going to get into that in a bit.
Does none of that matter? I'm not saying that nobody disagreed with Az, but to say that most people did is patently wrong.
Yeah, it is technically wrong, but I'm still hoping this is for the sake of comedy and not some, autistic nitpick that really spent over 3 minutes in reaction to really that one sentence. I mean, he goes on and on to something so little it seems like such overkill, but you know what? That's just my personal perspective of that and sort of the optics of the situation.
Last but not least, why is Az wrong to complain about the preferred pronouns option being put in Starfield's character creator? You didn't provide an explanation for why you feel he's wrong, you just said he was and expected me to just blindly go along with you.
The ending section of this from Alex the Critic almost seems to be valid until, he skips the whole section that sort of highlights what Ephron would consider to be the sort of problems that most people actually agree exist in the Angry Video Game Nerd series, which, it seems I'm right, seems to be something about design features or, and maybe in this case, the game limitations of the early NES games and the cartridge system. Some about passwords.
The point being, the anger, although hyperbolized, at the very least feels justified.
Right. Just like how those of us who were on Az's side felt that his hyperbolized anger towards the preferred pronouns choice in Starfield's character creator was justified.
The fact of the matter is that you don't have to see or pick the they them pronouns in Starfield.
These are facts, and facts don't care about your feelings.
And this next section I'm going to skip a bit, but there's these questions of why that this will highlight, I hope.
Many do not feel that such rage is understandable when seeing an option to select pronouns.
Why not?
The sun hasn't come up yet.
Why?
Remember, hyperbole is defined as extravagant exaggerations. However, in order for you to exaggerate those feelings, you have to have them in the first place. And if your underlying point is moronic, then your rant is going to be moronic.
So why is Az's argument moronic?
Because the sun comes up later.
Why?
Are you ever going to explain why you feel that way, Ephraim?
Well, the Earth goes around, and when it turns a certain amount, the sun shows on the horizon.
Why?
Because we're almost halfway through your video, and I have yet to receive an explanation for why you think Az is wrong.
Now, it's not wrong to ask why, but just the persistence of it in a response video opposed to a conversation is just a bit off. Really, is this why this video is titled Begging the Question? Because Alex the critic is begging it? But seriously, he keeps doing it. And why I can't answer for Ephraim? Here's a few choice clips from my video on Az to sort of explain why someone would have the perspective. Maybe not why he is wrong, but why what Heels vs. Babyface is doing here is completely retarded. I don't think what he's doing is smart. It's sort of like crying wolf at everything is woke. Synthetic Man has that sort of same energy there with the boy who cried wolf, or in this case, the boy who cried wolf. When you're seeing woke in everything, it sort of creates a culture of, I would say, paranoia, where you're really just stretching to call things woke. You get into that sort of anti-paranoid woke mindset. As I said, micro-wokeism. This is not fucking good tactics. This is not good optics. This is not good, sensible criticism. This is just you using this one, two, maybe there's more, but you only give 2 examples and they are complete dog shit for this little rant. Is all the woke media not enough? You have to find the littlest hint of it in a AAA title to sort of go off on this freaking little dumbass tirade. See, I can rant too.
Imagine if in my original video on this drama, I just said Az was right and that the Act Man was wrong for disagreeing with Az and provided no reason as to why. Luckily, I chose instead to do the opposite by explaining why I took Az's side. You guys probably want to know what I think about Az's rant. Well, I hate to disappoint the contrarians in my audience, but I agree 100% with everything the man said.
Yes, 100% agree with Az, I hear you say. No critical thinking, no variation, no nuance added to the situation. Absolutely no critical thinking required to listen. Just listen and believe to what Az says. Starfield is woke, so it must be because of those they, them pronouns. There's even gay couples in the game. Shocking horror. You know what? You know what I can't find in the game? A single person who talks about being the troubles of being trans or being a woman or not taking responsibility and plenty of guns. Maybe it's a conservative game. Ever think about that? They balance out the progressive and conservative aspects for a balanced piece. But no, you know what? Equal representation is just a invention of the woke man. Oh, sorry about the little tirade. Just had to add it in. Seriously, the trans shit with the clone bullshit has had to invent that shit to peddle his BS narrative. And he's not necessarily lying. He could just be deluded as hell with this particular game at this particular time.
Issues. Now, whether or not you agree with my reasoning for taking Az's side, at least I did provide a reason.
Also, I love how Ephraim said,
However, in order for you to exaggerate those feelings, you have to have them in the first place.
because it implies that Az is a grifter who doesn't actually believe any of the things he says.
Well, given that I looked into this beforehand and came to, my own conclusions firsthand without, being told by anyone anything, I really do think this is a believable conclusion to come to. But hey, you know what? I could be wrong. Sure, Az could just be really dumb or delusional instead of dishonest. But Alex does have a point. Ephraim does not really show the supporting evidence of any of that in this video that he's covering here to come to this sort of conclusion which he implies about it. I'll say outright that, yeah, there is supported evidence there in my video. Take it with a grain of salt. I probably have a bit of a bias.
Go industrialist. I'm going industrialist. There we go. I did it. What? Name. He. What? What? He. Him. He.
Just for clarification, this fucking dipshit didn't even go into traits before he even went to this screen. He's just like, traits? What are traits? I don't know. How am I going to say it's ironclad? Of course not. That's the beauty of speculation. You make an argument, you present certain little facts. I'm not going to tell people they have to listen and believe me. I'm hoping they'll listen to the logic I lay out and either agree, disagree, or maybe ask me probing questions. Why I actually prefer doing streams and inviting people on, opposed to response videos like this. And frankly, I don't need any of that to really mock the man-child known as Heels vs. Babyface.
And is just trying to farm views and subscriptions from outraged viewers. Even ignoring how he would have to provide evidence for that claim, one's motivations for making an argument does not invalidate the argument itself.
Yes, but the actual evidence, or at least the circumstances around all this for Az coming to the conclusions that he does, sort of does. I'm not going to say it totally invalidates any claim Az makes about the game, but it definitely does make it seem like all the people rushing to his aid, making it about the culture war instead of, whether or not Starfield is woke or not, under a close examination, is very telling. Almost seems like Az was moving the goalpost and using his sort of friends to help shield him from his own stupidity that did help raise his profile for some crazy reason. I'm guessing a lot of anti-woke people aren't exactly the most intelligent, but to be fair, a lot of people on the woke side are even dumber. So, equality, the beauties of living in a liberal society. And because there's a lot of love.
A few minutes later.
And even agrees that their deplatforming of dissenters is idiotic, and yet he still doesn't understand what Razorfist's point is? Alright, here is an explanation of Razorfist's point that even a 5-year-old can grasp. Starfield having a preferred pronouns option in its character creator is a big deal because modders are getting deplatformed for trying to post mods that remove the option.
Really? Both Alex the Critic and Razorfist is majority of their argument for why Starfield the game is preferred pronouns is such a problem is based on just really one instance that the Nexus mods have a a-hole ban happy policy on that one website, banning moderators, creating, certain mods to get rid of pronouns. And I remember Spider-Man about getting rid of the trans flag by moving the location to Arab. Quite a good move on that mod. Too bad it was banned personally. But for all of this to be hinged on something that was not done by anyone, at least to my knowledge, involved in Starfield's development, marketing, creation, or anything like that. Can't even say they're Starfield fans, just lunatic identity politics bullshit people. And all of this argument why this is a problem is based on this little instance. Oh, sorry. There's a little bit more to it. Frankly, I'm under the belief that incredible claims have to be backed up by incredible evidence. And frankly, this isn't enough, especially given this is all post hoc rationalization to rewrite the past, sort of like how the leftists tried to do the 1619 Project. Let me not go as low to bring slavery in here like Alex the Critic did earlier. My bad. Sorry about that.
And commentators are being attacked for criticizing it.
Oh my god, they were attacked, harassed for just criticizing Starfield? And that way, please go on about how they were attacked or harassed. Are they getting doxxed or death threats or anything like that? I don't approve of harassment or attacking people at all. I really frown upon that. So, yeah, go on. How's that? No, he doesn't go further into the detail with how the people who criticize the game are being attacked. There is a couple examples. I remember the deflection of sort of the criticism of Gamergate. The people at that got a pass because they were women in the industry being attacked. So, you know, that victim status. The anti-woke people aren't actually trying to pull that card now, are they? Are they? Let me not be too uncharitable here. But what Alex the Critic does go into instead of that is, frankly, in my opinion, a stupid point of whether or not Az had a funny rant or not. And really, maybe he has a point about Ephraim contradicting himself here, but it's such a minor, stupid point. I really don't care to analyze or critique it or even weigh in on at all, but sometimes stupidity slap fight between two retards can be funny, but hard to comment on.
But I am going to say that I find it weird you're using as a jumping off point to discuss this, them making fun of somebody for being angry at non-binary gender options in a video game.
First of all, that was not Razorfist's jumping off point.
You sure about that? Because frankly, I'm really starting to feel like, jumping off something, rather tall at this particular moment.
He goes off on these skeptics for, quote, shitting on Az, which could mean joking about him, but could also mean criticizing him for bullshit reasons. And I have reason to believe that it's the latter he takes issue with, since there are numerous times throughout his rant where he goes after their argument.
Oh, yes, please do highlight a point where Razorfist goes after their arguments. I really want to hear this.
Can be distilled to the following. What's the big deal? Pronouns are part of the English language. This video is just the same as a feminist freakout.
Well, I was actually hoping for, like an actual argument from an actual person. But, instead of that, actually, looking for an actual argument from a real person, a real source someplace, someone like Lofty Pixels, which aren't the greatest arguments, mind you, but still a little bit better than what Razorfist shits out and picks as a sort of a chimera-like creature from some of the dumbest voices in gaming review out there. And even then, he doesn't even really go into the substance of these arguments and just dismisses them as peddly bullshit. This is so demeaning as someone who used to respect Razorfist, how far down he's fallen, how out of touch, and how against actually discussing things with other people he seems to be in recent years. But you know what? I'm not going to show any evidence for that. You can look it up yourself. He'll talk with friends, but those who argue against him, generally you don't see it happening very often. Doesn't happen with Az either. Whoa, what a coincidence. And again, I don't know if this could really be considered a straw man or jelly man or, any of those variations. I mean, when you have plenty of big name morons such as the Ackman and Vosh to deflect from the actual arguments being made, why even bother with that? why not pick from them? I really don't see why he didn't just go with someone really dumb as an example and make them the representative for the counter argument. But he can't even do that in this rant. Maybe because of the rant style, to be fair, but oh, well, I don't know why you would defend the validity of this rant in that case, because it's not very hard-hitting data focused. And frankly, the facts that the skeptics get brought into this really just blows my mind.
Pinko pronouns, particularly those you have no option to disable in-game, aren't a feature any more than some asshole dev deciding your main character's named Humperdinck or some shit and not allowing you to change it would be a fucking feature. This isn't the addition of options, it's the excision of them.
For the love of all things holy, one of the tweets Razorfist cited when discussing these skeptics was from the Actman, and something tells me he wasn't joking when he posted this. So unless you want to tell me otherwise, I think you need to get your head re-examined.
Again, like, since when has the Actman really been part of the skeptics that Razorfist, warned people about years ago? And secondly, what? The dev deciding your main character name Humperdinck or some other shit and not allowing you to change would be like feature isn't additional options. What the hell is with this comparison? You can literally pick any name and you can change your pronoun. You don't even have to look at that pronoun. There's a special button to toggle that. Most people will miss it completely, but you know what? As such a gentleman, when he saw that pronoun at the end, he knew it. The wokeness just called to him. Yeah, I guess people just get a pass for talking fast, being entertaining, and somewhat amusing. But to make the claim there is any argument here is simply absurd to me. And Alex the Critic just showed the Actman tweet like anything Razorfist said actually countered anything when he just flashed it himself. Real quickly, then dismissed the guy with the generalization that makes me think overall this whole thing is rather absurd. In fact, continuing any longer sort of is coming off absurd to me, at least in this format. There's so many questions I have, but you know what? I mean, there's plenty of points I didn't actually address. Plenty of questions I would have, but I really find people going, why? Why do you think that? Sort of like Alex the Critic did to Ephraim here in this video. So you know what? I'm going to tag everyone involved in this response chain, even Razorfist, no matter how stupid it is. I'll place my contact info in the description down below for my Twitter and Discord. If you want to argue, discuss, anything like that, just shoot me a message. DMs should be squeaky clean. You can use the comments if you really want. Check my Discord, even though I hate it generally. And I try to live stream once a week if you want to do it for a live stream. With all that said, I'm done.